The day my son told me I wasn't welcome at Thanksgiving, I was standing in my kitchen peeling sweet potatoes. The same sweet potatoes I'd been making since before he could walk. His mother's recipe, brown sugar, a little cayenne, a pinch of nutmeg she always said I measured wrong. I still measure it wrong, on purpose, because it tastes right that way. He didn't say it to my face. That's the part that stayed with me longer than anything else. He texted it. Dad, Renee thinks it would be better this year if Thanksgiving was just her family. Hope you understand. I read that message 3 times. Then I set my phone face down on the counter and finished peeling the potatoes. I didn't know what else to do. My hands needed something to hold. I'm 63 years old. I spent 31 years working as a civil engineer for the county, got up before 6 every morning, came home in time to help with homework, coached Little League for 8 seasons, even though I don't particularly like baseball. I did what fathers do. I was present. I showed up. When my wife, Diane, passed from ovarian cancer 11 years ago, I kept showing up for my son, for his future, for the idea that family means something. My son's name is Beau. He's 34 now. Good-looking kid, always was. Smart enough when he applies himself. He met Renee at a company happy hour about 4 years ago. Married her 18 months later. Small ceremony, her parents' backyard in Scottsdale. I flew out, gave a toast, kept it short and kind. I tried. The trouble is, Renee came with opinions. Strong ones, loudly held, about how things should be done, who belonged where, whose family mattered more. Early on, I chalked it up to nerves, newlywed adjustment. I gave her the benefit of every doubt I had. Then Beau called me about the house. They'd found a place in Tempe, 3 bedrooms, nice neighborhood, good school district for kids they didn't have yet. The price was $387,000. Their combined income at the time was decent, but not great, and they'd been spending freely on the kind of life that looks better on Instagram than it sustains in a bank account. Designer furniture, vacations in Cabo. Renee's preferred brand of handbag cost more than my first car. Beau asked if I could help with the down payment. I said yes. $60,000. I didn't blink. That was the money I'd saved carefully, quietly, in an account Diane and I had set up years ago for exactly this kind of moment. A leg up, a start. Parents do that. But then the mortgage. Beau's credit history had some rough patches, a period in his late 20s when he made some choices I tried to talk him out of. The monthly payment came out to $2,340. Between their expenses and their income, they were stretched thin. So I agreed to cover the mortgage for a year, just to give them time to stabilize. Get their feet under them. That was the word I used, stabilize. The year became 2. Then it was stretching toward 3. I was paying $2,340 every single month. I had it documented, receipts, bank transfers, a spreadsheet I kept updated, because I'm an engineer, and that's how I think. Not because I expected trouble, just because I'm thorough. I visited them twice in that first year. Both times, Renee was polite in the way that costs nothing. Pleasant surface, cool underneath. She talked about her parents constantly, her father's business, her mother's charity work, the house her parents owned in Sedona. I always got the sense that in her mind I was a category below, a blue-collar grandfather type, which wasn't entirely wrong, but wasn't the whole picture either. The second visit, I brought a peach pie from a bakery I'd driven 40 minutes out of my way to find, because Beau mentioned once that Renee liked peach. She thanked me, set it on the counter, and served her mother's store-bought cookies at dessert. I noticed. I didn't say anything. I told myself it didn't matter. By the 3rd year of the mortgage, I had started to feel the weight of it differently. Not financially, I was managing, but something in me had started to understand that I was funding a life in which I was a guest, and not a particularly welcome one. Then came the Thanksgiving text. I put the potatoes in a bowl. I covered them with water. I sat down at my kitchen table and looked out the window at my backyard, at the oak tree I planted the year Beau was born, now wider around than I can wrap my arms. I did not respond that night. I slept on it, or tried to. Mostly I lay in the dark thinking about Diane, about what she would have said, what that look on her face would have been. Not angry, just deeply, quietly disappointed. She had a look that could hold more feeling than most people could put into a full speech. I missed that look. I missed having someone to share this kind of moment with. In the morning I called my brother Hatch. He's 2 years older than me, retired now, lives outside of Knoxville. He listened to the whole thing without interrupting, which is unusual for him. "You still paying that mortgage?" he asked when I finished. "Yes." Silence. "Beau know how much you've paid in total?" "I don't think he's added it up." Another silence. Then Hatch said, You going to keep doing it? I didn't answer right away. That was an answer in itself. I had paid, over the course of 34 months, a total of $79,560 toward my son's mortgage, plus the $60,000 for the down payment, plus the flights, the gifts, the pie nobody ate. I called my son that afternoon, not to argue, not to ask for an explanation, though I wanted one. I called because I wanted to hear his voice when he told me. He answered on the third ring. He sounded like he'd been hoping I wouldn't call. "Hey, Dad. Hey." I sat in the chair by the window, deliberately calm. "I got your text." "Yeah, I meant to follow up." "What does that mean, Bo?" "That it would be better if I don't come." He exhaled. "Look, Renee's parents are flying in from Scottsdale, and it's just a lot of people in a small space, and Renee thinks—" "What do you think?" "Quiet." "Bo, I think it's one holiday, Dad. It doesn't have to be a big deal. It's Thanksgiving. You're my son. That's what I think." He didn't say anything. That boy used to call me from his dorm room at midnight just to talk. I drove 14 hours round trip to move him into that dorm myself, a rented truck, 2 trips. He used to call me for everything. Now I could hear him choosing his words like a man walking a tightrope his wife had strung. "Her parents make her feel comfortable," he finally said, "and things get tense. When it's everyone together. When I'm there, you mean—" "I didn't say that." "You didn't have to, son." I told him I needed to think, and I hung up. I didn't think long. Some things, once you see them clearly, don't require much deliberation. The next morning I sat down at my desk. I opened the spreadsheet. I looked at 34 months of transfer. I thought about $60,000. I thought about peach pie on a counter. I thought about a text message. Then I called my bank. I did not make a scene. I did not send a letter. I did not call Bo ahead of time to warn him. I simply canceled the recurring transfer, the one that had been going out on the 14th of every month for nearly 3 years like clockwork, the one that kept the lights on in a house where I was apparently in the way. I went to Thanksgiving alone that year. My neighbor, a retired school teacher named Doris, had a small gathering, herself, her sister's husband, and me. We ate turkey and stuffing and watched football, and it was quiet and warm, and nobody texted me to say I wasn't welcome. I did not hear from Bo for 11 days. On the 12th day, he called. It was 7:14 in the morning. I know because I was having my first cup of coffee, and I looked at the clock out of habit. "The mortgage didn't go through," he said. He didn't say hello. "I know." A beat of silence. "Dad, what happened? Did something go wrong with the bank?" "Nothing went wrong with the bank." Another pause, longer this time. "What does that mean?" "It means I canceled it." I heard him breathe. Heard him move somewhere, maybe stepping out of a room. His voice dropped. "Dad, the payment is already 6 days late. We're going to get hit with a fee. I know how mortgages work, Bo. Can we fix this today? Can you call and reinstate it?" I took a sip of my coffee. Outside my window, 2 cardinals were fighting over the feeder I keep in the backyard. Same 2, I think, all autumn. "No," I said. "Dad, I'm happy to talk, Bo, but I'm not going to reinstate the transfer because of Thanksgiving. Because I was excluded from a family holiday while still being expected to pay for the roof over your head. Yes, that's why." He started to say something about how it was complicated, how Renee's family dynamic was difficult, how he was trying to keep the peace. I listened. I didn't interrupt. When he was done, I said, "Son, I love you. I have been paying your mortgage for 2 years and 10 months. I gave you $60,000 for your down payment. I have never once asked you for anything in return except to be treated like your father." The line was very quiet. I was uninvited from Thanksgiving's text message, no phone call, no conversation. A text? I know, I should have called. I'm sorry about that. And you are living in a house I have largely paid for. And your wife's parents flew in from Scottsdale to take my seat at a table I have been subsidizing. Quiet again. I'm not making the payment this month. I'm not making it next month. I think it's time you figured out how to carry your own mortgage. He said he understood. I don't think he did. Not fully, not yet. Understanding takes time. It took me 11 days of silence to get here. "What are we supposed to do?" he asked. It came out smaller than he intended. More like the boy than the man. "Talk to the bank. Look at your expenses. Make some choices." I paused. "You could also ask Renee's father. From what I hear, he's done very well for himself." I didn't say it meanly. I said it because it was the plain logical thing that anyone looking at the situation clearly would have said. My son had another set of in-laws with resources and proximity to his life. It had, apparently, never occurred to anyone to ask them. He didn't respond to that. We said goodbye. He said he loved me. I said it back because I do. Love and accountability aren't opposites. I've never believed they are. The weeks after that were not without difficulty. There were more calls. Some from Beau, some from a number I didn't recognize that turned out to be Renee's mother, who left a voicemail about how I was putting their daughter in a difficult position. I listened to the voicemail twice. I did not call back. Renee herself called once. It was a Wednesday. I was at the hardware store picking up weather stripping for the garage door. I didn't answer. She didn't leave a message. My brother Hatch called to check in. "How you holding up?" he asked. "Fine," I said. "Better than I expected." "You feel bad?" I thought about it honestly. I feel like I finally did something I should have done a year ago. That's not the same as not feeling bad. No, I said, it's not. The thing nobody tells you about drawing a boundary with your own child is that it hurts exactly as much as you think it's going to hurt, and also for reasons you didn't anticipate. I missed Beau. I missed who he'd been, the easy version of our relationship, the one before he got so turned around inside his marriage that he stopped knowing which direction to face. I wasn't angry at him, exactly. I was grieving something. But I also knew, in the part of me that thinks clearly, the engineer part, the part that spent 31 years solving problems before they became disasters, that what I'd been doing wasn't helping him. It was helping Renee maintain a lifestyle her own parents could have funded without blinking. It was allowing my son to avoid the discomfort of living within his means. I wasn't a father at that point. I was a line item. Diane would have seen it before I did. She was sharp that way. She would have called it something plainly, without cruelty. "You're being used, sweetheart." Then she would have gone back to whatever she was cooking and let me sit with that until I got there on my own. I got there. It just took me too long. 6 weeks after I canceled the transfer, Beau called again. Different from before, the defensiveness was gone, or most of it. He sounded tired, and tired in a way that was honest. "We talked to the bank," he said. "We're going to have to refinance. It's going to cost us. I'm sorry to hear that. Renee and I have been having some conversations." He paused. "About a lot of things." I waited. "I owe you an apology, Dad. Not just for the Thanksgiving text. For a lot of things over the last couple of years. I know it hasn't been. I know I haven't always made you feel like you were welcome. And that's not right." I looked out the window. The oak tree, bare now, branches like a map of somewhere. "No," I said. "It's not. I'm sorry." I believed him. Not the way you believe something the moment it's said, but the way you believe it after turning it over, looking for the lie, and not finding one. "Thank you, Beau. Can I come see you? Just me, over New Year's. Drive up, spend a couple of days." I said yes. Of course I said yes. I'm still his father. That was never the part in question. He came. We sat in the kitchen, and I made sweet potatoes, brown sugar, cayenne, the wrong amount of nutmeg, and we talked for longer than we'd talked in years. Real talking. Not the managed, careful kind, the kind where you say things that are hard and the other person doesn't leave. He told me things about his marriage I didn't ask for but listened to. I told him things about the years after his mother died that I'd never said out loud. We watched 2 college bowl games neither of us particularly cared about. He slept in his old room, and in the morning I heard him walking around the house the same way he had at 14, looking for the cereal before I was up. I did not offer to resume the mortgage payments. He did not ask. What he did ask, on the last morning over coffee, was whether I would come for his birthday in March. He said he'd like me there. He said he'd handle it. I said I would come. I'm not naive enough to think everything is fixed. I know Renee and I are not going to be close. I know there will be more moments of friction, more holidays that require navigation, more silences that need to be read carefully. Families don't untangle overnight, and damage that builds slowly doesn't repair quickly. But something shifted when I stopped writing that check. Something in the way Beau looked at the situation, at his wife, at me. Clarity has a cost and also a value, and sometimes the only way to make the value real is to let someone feel the cost. I still have the spreadsheet, all 34 months of it. I don't look at it much anymore, but I keep it because I'm thorough, and because some records are worth having, not to hold over anyone, but to remind yourself of what your own patience can look like when you stretch it past the breaking point. I think about Diane, about what she'd make of all this. She'd pour herself a glass of wine. She'd sit down across from me at this table, and she'd say, "About time, sweetheart." Then she'd ask me if I measured the nutmeg right. I'd tell her I measured it exactly right. And she'd smile and say she doubted that, and she'd be right, and that would be enough.